The cast and crew of Roman J. Israel Esquire. I had really nice introductions prepared for all of you, but clearly everybody knows who you guys are and couldn't wait, so thank you so much for being here. This is an audience of SAG actors. I always like to start by asking the actors, how did you get your SAG card? Wow. Going back a little ways.
I think I got my SAG card making my first ever American movie with Eddie Murphy, Metro. Yeah,
Oh, no
I kind
way.
of crept in through the back door. Yeah, that was
your first American movie?
First American film.
Wow.
They still have must join kind of.
Oh, yeah,
You
like
get one. You
Taft-Hartley?
get one free one, right?
I don't
No,
know.
it used to be you get one free one, right? And then you were what they call must join, right? And then your second one you got to pay. So I did a TV movie with Cicely Tyson,
Oh, wow.
where I met my wife, called Wilma, and I guess that was must join
So-
on that one.
So you got a wife and a SAG card.
And you know what?
Nice.
You know what was funny? I'll tell a quick story. I didn't know. I was so naive. I didn't know about per diem. I didn't know. You know, nobody told me. So the person showed up, the accountant, with this per diem. And they're like, well, here's your, I didn't even know what it meant, per diem. I was like, so I'm like, I just better maybe keep my mouth shut. Maybe they made a mistake. And then they're like, so they give you free money, extra money? I remember thinking, I'll never have to actually spend my check. I could just live off per diem. It's a true story.
I got my WGA card. No, I'm kidding.
No. I want to know. Well, actually, this is Dan Gilroy, the film's writer-director, if you didn't know.
It's on? Yeah, there it's on.
And I'm curious, what was the first time you felt you could call yourself a professional writer?
I waited to call myself a professional writer until the first time I was paid. I think I got $2,000 for writing a screenplay when I was 28. That was the first time I saw the screenplay. Was 28 for $2,000.
Was the movie made?
No, the movie was not made. They're rarely made.
Yeah.
Very rarely are the movies actually made, but you do get paid once in a while.
And we also have with us the film's producer, Jennifer Fox. If I may ask, when was the first time you felt you could call yourself a producer?
The first full producer credit that I received was on Syriana. And
Wow.
that was a big one for me as
Yeah.
a first film because it took place over many locations in many countries, multiple languages, huge cast. So it was a great learning experience.
That was your first?
Yeah.
My God, has everything seemed easy since?
Yeah.
Well, so on to Roman J. Israel Esquire. Dan, I'm just curious, where did the idea for this character come from? And was it the plot or the character first?
Old enough to remember the 60s. And in the 60s, I was really performing. It was a performative time for me. And I just remembered this universal feeling of changing the world. It was people who were involved in civil rights and women's rights and anti-war movements. And when you're 12 years old, it's like you're thinking, oh my God, I'm entering this incredible world where everybody's going to be passionate and do everything. And then over the decades, it just sort of evaporated. And I don't judge anybody for leaving the field, so to speak. You have to have a life and you have to do things. But I never lost that sense, and I became intrigued about 5 years ago with the idea of what would happen. What happened to the few people who never left? The people who sort of like Roman just kept that fervent, unadulterated ideal, and what would that be like? And I started to become interested in what the blessing of that would be, you know, getting you involved and keeping you feeling like you're making a difference, and at the same time the burden. Because as you know, this world doesn't really usually celebrate selfless acts. You get very little publicity or as Roman says, any accolades. So I just thought it was a really interesting, dramatic situation for a character. He came from that.
It's obviously hard to imagine anyone else playing Roman, but it's also dangerous to write with actors in mind. Did you write it with Denzel in mind?
I did. After Nightcrawler, I took myself off the market and I spent 9 months writing the script for Denzel. And I'd never met him, and I knew that if he didn't do it, I was not going to do the film. I was going to put it aside. So, no pressure there.
Yeah.
I never told you that before. Thank God he did the movie. And it really was. I mean,
Yeah.
Jen was involved. Jen knew that the movie was not going to get made. We're investing all the time. So we sent it to him, the agent, and I flew to New York. He was just about to start Fences, and we sat down, and we had a rather lengthy lunch. And I, at the end of it, we walked across the street to the park. It was a beautiful day. It was the Good Friday. And we sat in the park and we talked another 20 minutes, and he stuck out his hand and said, let's do this movie together. And I had to wait for him to do Fences, which gave us time to prepare, but that's how it started.
Amazing. And Denzel, what appealed to you about the role of Roman?
You read a script and it's a good script or it's not. You know, I shouldn't say it's good or it's not. You rarely read a script where you go, I mean, I read it and I said, I'm going to do it. You know, it depends upon where you are in life and what you just did or what you want to do. But it was just so well written and open to possibilities for the character, and I learned a lot.
And how much of the character was there on the page, and how much did you bring to it? Like, was his look, the glasses, the hair, everything already in the script?
He just said open to possibilities. I wrote the character. I authored the character. He created the character. That very little of that was there. The mannerisms. I underwrite. I don't put any parentheticals in my scripts about what actors should or not do. I really try to get involved with people who I feel are talented and allow them to create. And from the glasses to the look to the Rockports that were 2 sizes too big.
Right. Wore big shoes. So that was very good. Is that how I look? That's terrible.
No, I don't do it good. He's better than that. But all of that, we're watching it happen, and you're going like, wow, just like, anyway.
I did a lot of research. It led me down the road of the spectrum. So I decided that he was on the spectrum and mimicking, as they say, neurotypical behavior. And that's the direction I went in. Asperger's.
How did you decide, like, what made you think of the hair and the glasses? Was that inspired by somebody or something? Or you just always wanted to have a big afro?
It's not like one day you go, oh, here's everything. One thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, leads to another thing. And the more research I did about Asperger's and the spectrum, the physical issues, which made me wear, so I said, okay, I'll get big shoes. So I'm always struggling. I ate a lot.
Was that hard?
Yeah. I just, he had no regard, what do we say, for his personal administration, right. So I just, one thing led to another,
Jennifer, as a producer, you get to see this stuff from the beginning on the page, and then when actors come and bring it to life, are you excited, or are you also like a little worried because Denzel Washington is almost unrecognizable at some points?
Nah.
Yeah, well.
It couldn't have been more exciting, and it couldn't have been more exciting to watch him transform in this way and become this person. And when I could have sat, it would be incredible to see Roman walking around all day long. To my eyes, it felt like, wow, he's really become this character. And it did transcend what was on the page and become its own thing.
Would you ever go out, like, in your Roman wear?
I did.
Did people recognize you or think, like, Denzel's let himself go?
There were some photographs that got out when we were shooting on the street, and I read some of the comments. No, and because I like to see where people, and some were very mean, and I found that interesting. That's what people think about someone like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because there's one look in the film that I like when he's playing that cosmic slop and he turns and he looks. And even when I look at it, I go, this is the kind of guy who can go out and hurt a lot of people. Because we step over people like that. We make fun of, we mock people like that.
That's a really interesting point for writing the script, because I feel we live in a period of where everybody's looking for heroes and heroes, and Roman has a couple lines that relate to that. He says, like, we not speaking out as ordinary, we're all agents of change. And we pass people on the street, and where they're invisible often. You don't realize that the power of every individual, of whatever, you could pass Roman on the street and never give him the time of day and not understand. And I think that's true of so many people that we pass everywhere. in every situation.
And I'm not saying this because she's not talking, but like, what's the movie? Shoot, Training Day. The tough role was Ethan's role, and in a similar way, the tough role is Carmen's role, because to not make it, what's the word?
Jaded or?
No, stereotypical. Or, you know,
sure, yeah.
What's the word? I'm trying. You know.
I think stereotypical
Yeah.
is a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, to
Well,
find a space in which that you understand. There is something familiar in the motivation of the character without it being the
Bleeding heart.
absolutely
Right.
which and I think that there is something in Maya and so many people that is sort of desirous of coming out that doesn't maybe get the possibility, and but to this sort of this understated quiet version of what you described as somebody that has that sort of want and of compassion in the world, and but to find a way, sort of navigate the space quietly is, I think, what she does, which, can be the more difficult role to play at times.
No, I agree with you. I do agree with you, and I think you played it really well. And I think Carmen's character, Maya, is somebody who's behind the curve. Roman's farther down the road, but it's a difficult thing. I did a lot of research. It's tough to be an activist. It's really freaking tough. They're often smart and they're committed, and they could do many things that the world would applaud them for. And I think Maya would fall into that category as a character. But you're not getting any of that. And what is it that's sustaining you, other than this sort of selfless act to sort of feel that we have a shared humanity and we want to do something? And honestly, we went through 40 actresses before we hired Carmen.
Really?
I didn't know that.
And Jen was there, and I think Jen and Todd were there, and producer Todd Black. And within a minute of you coming in, we knew that you were going to be it. And one of the reasons was because Carmen and Colin carry Roman's. They're inspired. They carry his spirit in many ways out of the film, and you have a depth of character or soul that apart from your acting ability, that was really the critical element for casting you.
That's an incredible compliment, Dan. but and without getting too gushy, I have to say the same of you, because it was on the page to begin with, and there was an authenticity. You were saying, Denzel, that it has to be on the page to begin with to respond to, and this kind of voice is so specific and so heartfelt that it has to be authentic, or else it rings untrue on the page. I've seen this kind of character, these kinds of stereotypes attempted, and it doesn't happen in a way that rings true unless that level of soul is also in the person writing. So,
one of my favorite
goes
scenes
right
is
back
the
to
dinner
you.
scene. One of my favorite
yeah.
scenes is the dinner scene. When you're just to see it, just see the facade. I feel like all of us carry around a presentation that we give to the world, but then there's our inner self that sometimes comes down. And I could just see the inner self coming out in you, and the irony of at what moment in Denzel's Roman's life it's hitting him. But
One of my favorite lines is you stand on his shoulders, and it's like because she is tough, and that's when you really see the compassion and sort of what's going on in her mind. Did you guys prepare anything? You've played lawyers before, but I mean, learning the legalese or like the life of an activist. Did you do any special preparation for that?
I mean, I think making Selma gave me a great insight into that world and the type of character that Denzel's playing, because that is a generation past. There is a new kind of activism that really is on the ground these days, and I think what Denzel's character and who Roman is of that bygone era, and we're losing a lot of those leaders and what that looks like and what it feels like. And so it was, I think that might have been the best training that I could have had, was to have made that film. I got to meet a lot of people that really had been on the ground. And that was good training.
For you?
What was the question?
Any special preparation for learning all that legalese? I know you've played lawyers before, but...
I couldn't learn it. It was a killer, because he just keeps talking. It was hard, because he doesn't stop. I got no story. I got nothing.
Your last two movies.
And he's brilliant at it. It's not like you can ad-lib
Yeah.
law. A friend who I won't mention has a son who's savant, autistic, or whatever the word is for it. He can read something and he can tell you, like he knew where I grew up and what color the house was that I grew up. I was like, how does he know that? But he didn't know how to get home. You know, if you say, well, how do you get home? I don't know. But, you know, so down that Rain Man path, Roman's not that far down the path, but as it relates to the law, he knows it and he's sure about it.
Yeah.
He's confident in that. He just, another good friend of mine is a big attorney in Atlanta, and I asked him, I said, well, if you were my boss, my character's boss, are you keeping me away from other people? Because he always kept him he's never been out front. He's always been in the back. I said, would you be keeping me away from other people? He said, oh, no, I'd be keeping other people away from you.
Wow.
He said, but I'd have someone, we all look for someone like that guy.
Really?
You want that guy in your bullpen. Now they have Quicken and Legal Pro and all of that, but you still want that guy. He says, because his level of passion about particular law is important, not just the law wrote, but how he feels about it helps to inform him as the head of the firm.
And Dan and Jennifer, for you guys from like a technical point of view, what was the most difficult part about getting the movie done? And don't say financing, because that's always the hardest, but like if there was like a specific scene that you struggled with as a writer, or you're shooting in the streets of Los Angeles, which I can't imagine is fun.
I think the most difficult, what I thought was going to be the most difficult was putting a major movie star on a street with people who are not actors because you're just out in the street, and having people not respond, not stare at him, not to be organized enough to walk into a situation that's live. And there are a few scenes in the film where we're really just seeing Roman interacting.
Really?
There's a walk down Skid Row, and I was very nervous, both for just security, everything, and it went off without a hitch.
Wow.
They weren't looking for me.
Yeah.
Or they didn't see me.
They didn't see you.
No.
Yeah. They saw
They were
Roman.
like, did you see Denzel? I'm like, no.
But I also want to say, where's Denzel? You're talking to him. He's right there. But I want to say, I heard a lot of this secondhand, but the financing on a film like this is complicated. Tom Rothman and Sony and Anj and everybody, they really stood up for this film. There was a lot of whitewater while this film was going on that Jen and Todd kept me away from. And things were being cobbled, and Charles King, who's a big part of it at Macro, and so Todd and Jen were doing yeoman's work with everybody, keeping us going. This is a unique film, and it speaks so well of Sony that they support it the way they are supporting it. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes.
And we should acknowledge our producer, Todd Black,
Todd's
who's
here.
standing back there.
Yeah.
And if any of you have scripts for him, he wants to read them all now. No. I'm sorry, that's terrible. I do want to take a couple questions from the audience. There's one from, forgive me if I butcher anyone's name, is it Amira or Amira Lumley? Yes. Amira, okay. Wants to know what lessons and or ideas in the film can be taken and applied to living in America in 2017. Is there anything in particular you'd like the audience to take away after watching? Beautiful handwriting, by the way.
That we are all agents of change, that don't look outside for solutions or answers. Each one of us, whatever you believe in, anytime, what do you believe in, what's important to you, and stand up for it. Time is precious, and we do have a shared humanity and we stand or fall together, we really do. And whatever you believe in, stand up for it and advocate for it. And I hope that Roman is an inspiration for people on that level. One of the things that was important to me, just because the body dies doesn't mean the spirit dies. The spirit, one time Denzel and I were talking, and he said something that really illuminated for me. He goes, Roman is in a relay race. He's not the anchor. He's not going to be the guy bringing it in. He's going to pass the baton off to somebody else. We're not going to often see where it goes. We're not going to see, it's not going to, the result, we may not live to see the result of but to be a part of it, and to be connected to it, that's what I would hope people walk away with.
These are actors, right? This is actors?
Yes.
So we don't all have to be the anchor leg. what do they say? No small parts, just small actors. We don't all have to be a star. In fact, it's not something you should want to be. You know, be the best that you can be. That's what's important. Forget branding and all that other nonsense. Just do the work. Do the work.
Yeah. My role isn't that big in this film, but the film is so big and so important and relevant, and I knew I had to be part of it. I mean, it was, you know, sometimes that has to be the motivation. I think Maya in particular as a character is somebody that really, I think, understands fully that she'll be unsung as a hero, and I don't think the heroism is the thing that motivates her, and I think that it's so easy in this day and age of branding and of celebrity and sort of being up front, that if you're not in the at the helm, that somehow your contribution doesn't matter, and it really does every time. Provided that the motivation is wholesome and has some kind of real spirit behind it, and a sense of interconnectedness. Always, that's important.
You might have just answered this, but a question from, I believe it's Ambrit. Oh, hey, wants to know, what are your primary considerations when deciding to take a role or not? Carmen and Denzel.
Well, for me, I'm interested in characters that are complex and reflect the nuance of real life and the messiness of real people, and I think that was on the page very much with Maya. I was dying to work with Denzel. It's been a lifelong ambition. I'm so glad it finally got to happen, and it's got to be on the page. Great writing. This is when you also have a great director, when you have the whole thing in front of you, it makes it even easier. But sometimes as an actor, you take on a role just because you know that your contribution within the greater piece will be enough.
Denzel?
You know, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And it was on the page. You read it and you go, whoa. Now it's not, and it's not Troy Maxon 2. You know, it's coming off of Fences looking to do something completely different, and this was completely different. And he just wrote it wasn't like I had one other script to decide between the two. There was no other script. I read it, I said, that's where I'm at, and that's what I want, and it was fertile territory, and knowing what Dan had done with Nightcrawler and just all of that. It just, sometimes it all comes together. Very rarely, but sometimes it does.
Both characters, both Troy and Roman, are pretty verbose, though. I mean, you have a lot of monologues to memorize.
He's about to do Iceman Cometh.
You are?
Yeah.
They're both of those pale in comparison.
Oh my God,
I think that play ends with a 5-page monologue. My memory, is that right?
You gotta keep challenging yourself. You know, that's what I'm about. That's where I am in life. I just want to get better as an actor and a director, but I'm just trying to get better, trying to grow.
I heard you're going back to Broadway next year. It's for Iceman Cometh?
January, start rehearsal into January.
Oh my God, that's amazing. After that, do you want to play a mute or do a nice rom-com or something? And just relax?
You got a script?
I bet somebody does, right?
Don't have to say anything. Don't get me started.
We have a question from Sahar. Oh, right there. Okay. Mr. Washington, you give the most amazing motivational speeches. You touch people with your acting and your words. Could you share a bit of wisdom to give us hope and encouragement in the industry? This is a tough business. I mean, for all of you, I don't know if there were times you thought about giving up. What kept you going?
True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already. So if you have the itch and you have the desire, then it's already yours. Now the question is, what do you want? God answers all prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. You heard me? It may not come the way you envision, but there's nothing wrong with dreaming big and or failing big. It may lead you to something else, but don't give up. It's not important what you become or what you accomplish necessarily, but it is important who you are and who you help and what you contribute to this world, especially at this time. And it may be in front of the camera and it may not. You know, you never know who you touch. A gentleman who's been driving me in New York for years, you know, he says, well, I'm just a driver. I said, but think about who gets in your car every day and the opportunities you have to affect. Don't step over Roman Israels. Don't step over Roman Israels when you see them on the street. Forget it. Don't step over Roman Israels when you see them on the street.
I know you guys have to be somewhere, so I'm going to ask everyone to stay seated so they can get out of here because they have a very packed schedule. But I do, first of all, I want to know if you can really get that bacon donut. That's the most important question.
It was a bacon donut. It became a turkey bacon donut.
Does somebody actually make bacon?
Come on, let's get a
Downtown?
turkey bacon donut out here.
Yes, the
For
answer
everybody,
is
under your
yes.
seat. There's one taped under your seat. This is Ellen.
Did I change it to turkey bacon?
You did.
Oh my gosh.
He said, I don't eat bacon.
That was my one right. That was my writing credit. Do I get credit for
No,
that?
you get credit for more than that. I want a turkey bacon. You know? You just made it even more weird. Which I like.
Do you want to remind people that this movie will be everywhere by Thanksgiving? Please spread the word. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys.